Hey everyone! Have you ever dreamed of creating something that could change the world, only to be betrayed by your own family? Today, I'm going to tell you a story full of tears, fury, and twists that'll keep you glued to the edge of your seat. The story of a young woman fighting against injustice to protect her dream. Don't go anywhere, because this is an emotional roller coaster that'll have you screaming with excitement and crying with empathy. Let's dive into Emily Harper's journey together. You won't want to miss a single second of it. I stood in the dimly lit lab at MIT, the cold blue glow of the computer screen casting sharp shadows across my face, tired but fierce, like a freshly sharpened blade. My hands trembled, not from the bone-chilling Boston winter, but from the storm of emotions raging in my chest: anger, pain, and a flicker of something dangerously close to hope. My phone buzzed wildly in my hand, and my father's voice, James Sullivan, the big shot behind Sullivan Robotics, crackled through the speaker, low and steady, like a soulless machine. Emily, I've decided to hand your AI project over to Chloe. She'll know how to turn this tech into cash. His tone was calm, unshaken, as if he'd just told me it might rain later, not ripped the most precious thing in my life right out of my hands. Me, Emily Harper, 28 years old, an AI engineer with messy brown hair usually tied up high and green eyes, blazing with relentless ambition, had spent 5 years of my life building this system. It wasn't just a tangle of complex code. It was my blood, sweat, and the tears I'd shed over countless sleepless nights. I called it Guardian, an AI that could predict and stop cyber attacks with near-perfect accuracy, a breakthrough that could shield millions from digital disasters. This wasn't just science. It was a promise I'd whispered to my mom, Anna Sullivan, 12 years ago by her graveside. I'll make something great, so no one has to lose like I did. I gripped the phone tighter, nails digging into my palm until it stung, blood pounding hot in my veins. Chloe, my 22-year-old stepsister, had just graduated from some community college with a business degree I'd bet she bought off a shady website for a couple $100. What was Chloe's biggest achievement? Maybe that Instagram post with 1 million likes, posing in a red bikini by Dad's pool, or her live streams bragging about a glam life she never earned. And yet, my father, with that smug grin I could picture through every cold word, said, "Chloe's got the business vision you'll never have, Emily. Sullivan Robotics needs her to survive in this cutthroat world." "You can't do this," I growled, fighting to keep the wildfire in my chest from spilling out. My voice shook, not from weakness, but from the sheer force of the emotions surging through me. "This project is mine. You have no right to take it." He chuckled, a sharp metallic sound that sliced through my ears like a blade. "You're wrong, Emily. Sullivan Robotics funded everything. The computers you used, the coffee you drank, the lab you sat in for hours. Everything you've built belongs to the company, and as CEO, I decide who runs it." "Shui," he paused, letting the silence crush me like a boulder. "Chloe will turn it into gold. You just keep dreaming in your little world." I stared at the screen in front of me, an email from the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, USPTO, glowing like a lighthouse in the dark, confirming my independent patent application had been filed 4 months ago. Dad didn't know that. He had no clue I'd seen this dark day coming from miles away, ever since he married my stepmom Olivia 2 years ago, when he started shoving me out of key meetings, sidelining me like an old toy to make room for Chloe's spotlight. I took a deep breath, anger giving way to a cold, steely calm. "Well then," I said, my voice steady but laced with a terrifying strength. "Good luck to Chloe, trying to sell something she can't even understand." "Anything else, Dad?" The silence on the other end stretched out, heavy like a storm about to break. I knew he expected me to scream, beg, or at least crumble into desperate tears, but I wouldn't give him that satisfaction. I wasn't the 16-year-old girl who'd sobbed uncontrollably when Mom collapsed in front of me, her heart stopping without warning, beyond anyone's reach to save. I was a woman now, a fighter, and I'd learned to turn pain into power. "Good luck," he finally said, his voice cracking just slightly, a tiny fracture in his smug armor. Then he hung up. I dropped the phone onto the desk with a sharp clack, my hands shaking not from fear, but from a wild excitement surging through me like a tidal wave. I texted my lawyer, Rachel Kim. He did it, just like we predicted. Then I sank into my creaky swivel chair, breathing deeply, feeling the wheels I'd quietly set in motion months ago start to spin faster, harder. This wasn't just a fight for a patent, it was a war for myself, for the dream I'd clung to since I was a naive kid standing by Mom's grave, clutching a white daisy, tears soaking the cold earth. I remember the day everything shifted. A lavish dinner party at Sullivan Robotics' downtown Boston headquarters 2 years ago. Chandeliers sparkled overhead, warm golden light bouncing off expensive wine glasses. I'd just finished presenting Guardian, my heart pounding as investors, men and women in sharp suits, stood and clapped, their eyes gleaming with awe and greed. I'd explained how Guardian could spot a cyber attack before it even started, how it could shield hospitals, schools, and businesses from being crippled by shadowy hackers. It was the moment I felt I was touching Mom's dream. A safer, better world. I thought Dad would hug me, say something like, "You're my pride and joy, Emily," like he did when I won the National Science Fair at 15. But no. He strode onto the stage, his sleek black suit hugging his frame, put a hand on Chloe's shoulder. She was standing there in a glittery sequin dress, blonde hair cascading in perfect waves, and announced with sky-high pride, "Chloe Sullivan, my daughter, is joining the company as head of strategy. She'll bring a fresh, modern edge to how we operate." The crowd cheered, but I stood frozen, feeling the floor shatter beneath me. Chloe turned to me, flashing a fake smile, her gaze sliding over me like I was a ghost not worth noticing. I clutched my wine glass, knuckles white, fighting back tears in front of hundreds of people. The weeks that followed were a slow nightmare. I tried working with Chloe, sitting across from her in meeting rooms, explaining how Guardian worked, how it analyzed real-time data, how it learned from attack patterns to predict a hacker's next move. But she didn't care. She cut me off mid-sentence, waving a manicured hand, saying, "Emily, I don't need to know all this techie stuff. You do your thing, and I'll handle the money part. The world doesn't need another nerd. They need someone who can sell the idea." I stared at her, jaw dropped, unable to believe my ears. "Money," I echoed, voice trembling with rage. "This isn't a dating app or a photo filter, Chloe. This is tech that can save lives." She shrugged, pulled out her phone, and started scrolling Instagram right in front of me. That was the last time I tried reasoning with her. Then the warning signs crept in, like cracks in a dam about to burst. My access to Sullivan Robotics' main servers got blocked without explanation. My brilliant team of engineers, who'd been with me since Guardian's early days, were reassigned to priority projects, leaving me alone in the lab. My research budget was slashed without a word, barely enough for cheap coffee and printer paper. I caught Chloe hovering in Guardian meetings, scribbling nonsense on her iPad with a pink stylus, asking dumb questions like, "Can we slap this into an app?" Or, "Why doesn't it have a prettier interface?" I realized she wasn't just useless, she was a threat. That's when I knew I had to act, to protect my dream before it was stolen completely. I called Rachel Kim, my high school best friend turned razor-sharp intellectual property lawyer, with sleek black hair and eyes that could cut through any lie. We met at a little cafe in Cambridge, its dim golden lights glowing on her serious face. "Document everything," Rachel said, her voice firm like a general's order. "Every email, every meeting, every access denial. Most importantly, file an independent patent, no ties to Sullivan Robotics. If they want to play dirty, we'll play smarter." I threw myself into it like a madwoman, a cornered warrior who'd never surrender. I hauled my personal laptop to my tiny apartment, a cramped space smelling of burnt coffee and stacked with tech books. Endless nights, I typed code under a flickering desk lamp, adrenaline pumping through me like fuel that wouldn't burn out. I didn't sleep, didn't eat, just ran on willpower and cold coffee. The final breakthrough, the cyber attack prediction algorithm, hit me one early morning as a red dawn streaked across my worn wooden floor. I shouted into the silence, tears streaming down my face, not from sadness, but from raw, triumphant joy, the first taste of victory after so many dark days. I'd done it, and I'd documented it all. Every line of code, every hour worked, signed off by two MIT colleagues as independent witnesses. My phone buzzed at 3 a.m. A text from Rachel. USPTO got your filing. Your case is tighter than a bank vault. Their next move will trigger the bomb we're waiting for. I grinned, not with relief, but with readiness. I pulled a thick folder labeled Guardian Project from my desk drawer. Hundreds of pages of undeniable proof that Dad and Chloe had tried to edge me out of my own creation. I had emails from legal demanding I hand over research materials, receipts for my personal laptop, code logs saved to my private cloud. They had money and power, but I had the truth. And truth is the sharpest weapon of all. The lab's desk phone rang loud, Chloe's internal line. I let it ring, waiting for the voicemail with a mix of disdain and curiosity. Her voice came through, syrupy but edged like a knife. Emily, we need to talk about this AI project ASAP. I've got some killer ideas to make it a huge hit. Stuff you clearly didn't think of. Call me back quick, don't dawdle. I smirked, disgust bubbling up like a tidal wave. Killer ideas? Probably adding a cartoon voice to the AI or turning it into a selfie app. I started packing. Laptop, papers, a small photo of Mom in her white lab coat. My heart pounding, knowing the next few hours would decide everything. The patent dispute would spark an automatic USPTO investigation, and all their dirty laundry would come tumbling out, from Dad's lies to Chloe's cluelessness. As I left the lab, snow began falling lightly over MIT's campus, white flakes clinging to my black coat. My phone buzzed again. An email from Sullivan Robotics legal team. Immediate IP transfer documentation required. I forwarded it to Rachel without opening it, heading to the garage, my mind spinning with painful but meaningful memories. My mom, Anna Sullivan, had built Sullivan Robotics with Dad from a tiny garage in suburban Boston 25 years ago. She was the lead engineer, a genius with greasy hands and a smile like sunshine. Dad handled business, Mom handled innovation. They were a perfect team. I remembered nights when she'd sit with me on the floor, sketching circuits with colored pencils, teaching me how a small idea could change the world. "You've got a fire in your heart, Emily," she'd say, ruffling my hair. "Don't ever let anyone put it out." When she died of a sudden heart attack at 16, I stood by her grave, clutching a white daisy, tears soaking the cold ground. I swore I'd carry on her legacy, make Sullivan Robotics a beacon of innovation like she'd dreamed. I'd believed Dad and I were a team, that we'd honor her together. But then Olivia came along, a haughty woman with glossy blonde hair and eyes cold as ice. Dad changed after marrying her. He started talking market value instead of innovation, pushing projects for quick profit, slashing research time to chase cash. Then Chloe swept in, a whirlwind of entitlement and baseless ambition, and everything I'd believed in crumbled. I drove through Boston's snowy streets, icy wind whistling through a cracked window, cutting through my thick coat. But I didn't feel cold. I just felt the fire in my heart roaring hotter than ever. I reached Rachel's downtown office, a sleek glass building glowing in the night. She was waiting in the conference room, walls plastered with papers, charts, and timelines, our arsenal for the fight ahead. "They just filed the transfer demand," Rachel said, eyes gleaming like a battlefield strategist. "But USPTO flagged your filing from 4 months ago. Your dad's probably losing it with his legal team right now." I gave a small laugh, setting my laptop on the table, feeling like a boxer stepping into the ring. My phone lit up, a text from Dad. "What the hell are you doing, Emily?" I showed Rachel, and she nodded approvingly. "Let them panic," she said, voice steady as steel. "Tomorrow, USPTO meets us. Your case is rock solid. They've got no shot at breaking it." I nodded, but beneath my confidence, a quiet sadness crept in, an old wound reopening. Dad used to be my hero, the guy who taught me to ride a bike, who held me when I cried by Mom's hospital bed. Now he was the enemy, and that hurt more than any punch. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my apartment, staring out at the city's glowing lights, snowflakes twinkling like falling stars. I thought of Mom, her smile, how she'd said, "You've got a fire no one can extinguish, Emily. Don't let them take it." I clenched my fists, feeling that fire blaze hot and wild. My phone buzzed nonstop. Calls from Chloe, Dad, Sullivan Robotics legal team. I silenced it, focusing on the papers in front of me. I opened the incorporation docs for Harper Innovations, my pen gliding across the page, signing my name with a surge of pride and freedom. This wasn't just a company. It was me, my dream. The fire Mom had lit in my heart from the start. The next morning, Sullivan Robotics headquarters was chaos. I stood across the street, snow dusting my hair and coat, watching lawyers rush in and out, clutching stacks of papers, faces taut like strings about to snap. Rachel sat beside me in the car, skimming docs one last time with the calm of a chess master about to checkmate. "Your dad called 8 times this morning," she said, glancing at my phone. "Listen?" I shook my head, eyes locked on the gleaming high-rise. He had his chance to talk when it mattered. Now he pays for what he did. Chloe texted, "This is just a misunderstanding, Emily. Daddy only wanted to help you by letting me run the project. Don't ruin everything over jealousy, okay?" I laughed out loud, the sound echoing in the car's tight space, showing Rachel the screen. Run it?" Rachel scoffed, dripping with sarcasm. "Does she even know what AI is beyond thinking it's a fancy virtual assistant?" "She thinks it's Siri on steroids," I said dryly, unable to hide my contempt. Last week she asked if we could give it a sexy voice to hook users. We arrived early for the USPTO meeting, standing in Sullivan Robotics' main lobby, peering through thick glass into the conference room where Dad, Chloe, and Olivia huddled. The air was thick, tense like a bomb about to blow. Chloe burst out of the elevator, blonde hair a mess, her usual confidence shattered like soap bubbles. "Emily, thank God you're here!" she shrieked, voice shrill, borderline panicked. "You need to stop this now. Daddy's furious, and you're making our whole family look like a joke." She reached for my arm, red painted nails flashing under the lights. But I stepped back, cold as an ice wall. Making you look bad?" I raised an eyebrow, voice sharp as a blade slicing the air. "You mean like how you tried to steal the project I poured 5 years of blood, sweat, and tears into?" Chloe forced a laugh, the sound shaky like it might break. "Don't blow this out of proportion, Emily. We're family. Everything in the company is ours together. Don't you see that?" I locked eyes with her, disgust rising like a tidal wave. "Harper Innovations isn't ours," I said, voice even but strong, like a declaration of war. "My project isn't something you can touch." Chloe frowned, her pretty face twisting in confusion. "Harper what?" she stammered. But before I could answer, Dad's voice thundered across the lobby. "Emily Harper, get into my office now." He stood at the door of his corner office, black suit rumpled, face flushed with rage, eyes wild like a cornered animal. For a split second, I saw the old dad, the one who taught me to bike on a gravel road, who hugged me tight as I sobbed by Mom's bedside, whispering, "We'll get through this, Emily." But that memory faded, replaced by a man ready to sell out his own daughter for profit and blind loyalty to Chloe. Rachel stepped forward, heels clicking on the marble floor, voice calm but hard as steel. "Actually, any discussion needs both sides' lawyers present. We've got a USPTO meeting in 15 minutes. Main conference room?" Dad glared, lips pressed into a tight line, but he said nothing. He turned and stormed off, shoulders slumping slightly, a rare hint of defeat I'd never seen in him before. We followed, the air heavy like a brewing storm. The conference room was packed, Dad at the head of the table, Chloe and Olivia beside him, Sullivan Robotics' legal team quietly shuffling papers, and 2 USPTO reps arriving right on time. "Doctor," Laura Chen, a petite woman with piercing eyes, and David Ortiz, a stern, middle-aged man with unshakable resolve. They didn't waste time. "We're here to address a serious allegation," Dr. Chen started, her voice cutting through the silence. "Yesterday, Sullivan Robotics attempted to transfer patent application 7483921 to Chloe Sullivan. However, Emily Harper filed it independently 4 months ago, with no company ties." Dad jumped in, voice growling like a wounded lion. "There's a mistake here. Emily's project was fully funded by Sullivan Robotics. Everything she made belongs to us. No exceptions." Rachel smiled, a cold, confident grin, then slid a thick stack of documents across the table, papers rustling like wind over a battlefield. "Actually, we've got clear evidence that Guardian's key breakthroughs were developed by Emily independently, on her own equipment and time." She laid it out, voice sharp as a honed sword. She pointed to each page. "Code logs meticulously tracked on my personal laptop, receipts for gear bought with my savings, emails from Dad ordering my server access cut, and affidavits from 2 MIT colleagues." It painted an airtight picture. I'd been systematically pushed out of my own creation, and I'd fought tooth and nail to take it back. Dad slammed the table, the bang echoing like a gunshot, making Chloe flinch. "I've poured millions into this company," he roared, voice hoarse with fury. "Emily couldn't have done it without me." Rachel didn't blink. "You might have funded the early stages, but you can't buy talent, grit, or the fire in Emily's heart. She finished Guardian off hours, with her own resources. That's the truth, and you can't rewrite it." Chloe piped up, voice shaky but trying to sound tough. "I don't need to understand the code to sell it," she yelled, face flushed. "I've got vision. She doesn't. I can make it an app everyone wants." I met her gaze, anger and disdain mixing into something fierce and unstoppable. "Oh yeah, Chloe?" I said slowly, voice low but cutting like a knife. "If you're so brilliant, explain to everyone here how my cyber attack prediction system works. One sentence." Silence smothered the room like a thick blanket. Chloe opened her mouth, then shut it, her pale blue eyes darting for help. She looked to Dad, but he just stared down, hands gripping papers, face pale like a man who'd lost everything. "Doctor." Chen cleared her throat, breaking the suffocating quiet. "Based on the evidence, we determine patent application 7483921 belongs to Emily Harper as sole inventor. Any transfer attempt without her consent is patent fraud." Ortiz added, voice deep and grave. "We'll launch a full investigation into Sullivan Robotics over this. Penalties could include heavy fines, even criminal charges if more violations surface." The room's air grew stifling, like all the oxygen had been sucked out. Dad looked up, eyes bloodshot, blazing with a mix of rage and desperation. "Emily, you can't do this to me, to our family!" he bellowed, voice cracking like breaking glass. I stood, locking eyes with him, feeling part of my heart bleed, but refusing to let it stop me. "Family?" I repeated, voice icy but steady as stone. "You mean the family that tried to steal my dream? The family that shoved me aside for someone who can't tell AI from a dating app? You chose Chloe over me. Don't talk to me about family." Olivia clutched Chloe, glaring at me through crocodile tears. "Why are you so cruel, Emily?" she hissed, voice shrill. "Chloe just wanted to help." "Help?" I laughed, the sound sharp and cold, bouncing off the walls. "By taking credit for 5 years of my blood, sweat, and tears? By turning Mom's dream into a cheap gimmick for Instagram clout?" Chloe burst into sobs, tears streaking her perfect makeup, but I felt no pity. It was her old trick, crying for sympathy, but this time it fell flat. Dad slammed the table again, so hard the water glasses rattled. "Enough!" he roared, voice raw. "What do you want, Emily? Money? Company shares? Name your price and we'll settle this." I stared at him, feeling like I was looking at a stranger, not the father I'd once adored. I slid the Harper Innovations Incorporation papers across the table, sheets gliding smoothly over the polished wood, stopping in front of him. I don't want anything from Sullivan Robotics, I said, voice ringing like a vow. I've got my own company, my research, my future. Harper Innovations is my answer. Good luck to you and Chloe. You'll need it. The room went dead silent, like time had frozen. Dad picked up the papers, hands trembling, eyes scanning the lines, his face shifting from red to pale. You can't compete with me, he said, but his voice was weak, unconvincing, like a man who knew he'd lost but couldn't admit it. You've got science, I replied, calm but cutting like a blade. I've got Chloe and her empty promises. Let the investors decide what's worth more. I turned and walked out, Rachel beside me, her heels clicking in rhythm. The air outside felt lighter, but my heart still pounded with victory and the ache of what I'd left behind. My phone buzzed as we hit the lobby, an email from a big Silicon Valley investor. Heard about Harper Innovations. We're blown away by Guardian. Can we meet? I laughed loud, the sound echoing in the vast space, showing Rachel the screen. They move fast, she said, eyes gleaming like a warrior fresh off a win. Stepping outside, snow fell thicker, blanketing Boston's streets in a shimmering white. I paused in the biting wind, breathing deep, freedom flooding my chest like a cool stream. What's next? Rachel asked, standing beside me, her breath puffing white in the cold. I looked up at the gray sky, picturing Mom smiling somewhere in the clouds. I'll build Harper Innovations into what Mom always dreamed of, I said, voice firm as a promise. Say a company that puts innovation over profit, that protects the world from the dark. But first, I need a team, people who believe in this dream like I do. I opened my laptop in the car, fingers flying over the keys, drafting an email to the investor. Happy to meet. Harper Innovations is ready to change the world. I'll follow up soon to schedule. I hit send, feeling like I'd just set a bird free into the wide sky. Rachel clapped my shoulder, laughing. You did it, Emily. They didn't see this punch coming. I nodded, but I knew this wasn't the end. Dad and Chloe wouldn't give up easy. Maybe a lawsuit, a smear campaign, or some new scheme. But this time, I was ready, with science in my hands and a fire no one could snuff out. That night, I drove back to my apartment, stopping by the MIT lab one last time before leaving for good. I stepped inside, hallway light spilling onto Mom's photo in her white coat. I set it on the desk, whispering, "For you and for me." I opened a bottle of red wine, raising a glass to the air, dim light glinting off the swirling liquid. To Harper Innovations, I said loud, voice ringing in the quiet. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. We need to talk now. I didn't reply. Instead, I took a sip, warmth spreading through me. The next day, I met Harper Innovations' first team, 3 young MIT engineers who'd worked with me on Guardian's early days. We sat around an old wooden table in a makeshift office I'd rented on Boston's outskirts, sunlight streaming through the window onto eager, energized faces. We're not just building a company, I said, voice thick with emotion. We're building a future, where science beats greed, where dreams like Mom's live on. Who's in? All 3 raised their hands, laughing, and my heart felt lighter than ever. My phone buzzed. An email from a major New York hospital. Heard about Guardian. Can we test it to secure our systems? I smiled, showing the team. This is step 1, I said, and we're not stopping. A week later, I stood outside Harper Innovations' new home, a small but cozy space with clear glass walls and Harper Innovations glowing on the sign. Snow still fell, but I didn't feel cold. I felt warm, strong, alive. Dad could keep Sullivan Robotics, Chloe could keep her hollow promises, but I had something bigger, my dream, and no one could take it away again. I walked inside, my team waiting, and we got to work. The real fight was just beginning, but this time, I wasn't afraid. I was ready to win, not for revenge, but for me, for Mom, and for a world worth living in. Hey, awesome people! Did Emily Harper's story set your heart racing? If you love wild emotional rides, jaw-dropping twists, and fierce characters who never give up, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next tale. Where do you think Harper Innovations will go? What'll Dad and Chloe do to strike back? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. Thanks for sticking with me to the very end. You're my biggest inspiration.